Hey there, welcome back. It's Taylor Schuler here with your horoscopes for thriving. And this is going to be the horoscope for the full moon in Gemini that is happening on Wednesday, December 7th. And this is a really special full moon. It is going to be, like I said, in the sign of Gemini. That means the sun's in Sagittarius. Sorry, I'm just getting over COVID. So I'm a little like, but that's the energy that we're dealing with right now. Um, the full moon is going to be with Mars, and Mars is retrograde right now, and it's also about to oppose the sun just a couple hours the next day after this full moon that we have in Gemini. And so whenever we have the moon and Mars together, we get this energy about our energy, about how we take action, about what we're doing. And because Mars is retrograde and it's in this very special place where it's opposite the sun for about 3 days, just 35 hours or so, actually, Mars is really bright in the sky. It's red. It is fiery. So if you go out after sundown and look to the east in the sky, you'll see a bright red star. It is actually the planet Mars, which is super cool. So we only see it that big, bright, and red and close to the earth every 2 years. But essentially, what this full moon is all about is it's all about slowing down. It's about some rest. It's about transformation. There's some grief here too. There's an energy of letting go. It's about feeling our anger and letting it process. It's about sitting with our anger, acknowledging it, and then moving it out of our bodies in a really safe way. And this can come up in conversations with people. This can come up with siblings. This can come up with neighbors. This can come up, if you've got kids or some young people around or folks who are just really immature in general. This is definitely that kind of energy because Mars is in Gemini, and that's who it comes up with. It's sophistry. Sophistry is about, intentionally putting information out there that's false or inaccurate in order to persuade someone to do something. So what we're being invited to do is we're being invited to transcend whatever we've been dealing with, whatever's been bothering us, whatever's been hurting, and transcend that and let go, lean into our spirituality, channel our anger with love, channel our energy with love ourselves so that we can give ourselves the grace to rest. I got COVID and I get sick when I push myself, and I've got some other friends, the same thing is happening where, if for some reason it feels like we've got 12 million projects within a couple weeks time, especially over the past couple months, and you're like, okay, it's go time, I just got to do it. And it's like, you can't be a shark forever. You can't just like keep swimming forever. Eventually your body catches up, and rest is productive, right? And we have to remember that the journey is about joy, and we might really enjoy some of these projects we've got going on. We might enjoy what we're doing. And also, if we don't recognize that we're out of our rhythms, that we're out of our practices, that we're out of our routines, the universe, I think, call it what you want to. My word for it is the universe steps in and goes, well, here's some COVID for you. Here's a flu, here's strep throat, and you're going to slow down whether you like it or not. And I had to take the last week off. I never, ever would have given myself permission to take time off of work, especially like after a holiday and when I've already had some time off. And I was given I was given not the permission, I was given the slip, like you're out whether you like it or not. And it was great. It was amazing to slow down and take that time for myself. I also think what's coming up, the last time that Mars was in this phase of being completely opposite the sun for 3 days was October 15th of 2020. So give or take a couple days around then. And I don't know if you remember that time, but that was really like, that was about 7 months into the pandemic because it started around March. And then we're in October. That's about 7 months later, right? And people were really starting to feel it. It was like summer's over. It's it's getting cold out, and at least in the northern hemisphere. Um, and we're going into winter, and that means it's going to get worse. And so there was a lot of grief of, wait, this pandemic thing isn't over, and I don't get to get out even in the winter because it's going to be worse in the winter because that's when people get colds, period, right? It was a really challenging time. And I feel like after that, and then especially between October and like late winter of 2020, 2021, excuse me, that's when we were like, oh no, we're in it. We're in this thing for a little while more. And people were starting to talk about going back to the office and getting back to whatever normal was. And it was like, no, we're not doing that. And we're in one of those periods again where it's like we're pushing to do something. We're ready to be ready. And actually, we need to be ready for some sort of change. We need to be ready for a new normal. We need to grieve what has been lost and acknowledge that. And during the pandemic 2 years ago, when we had this Mars transit, we had felt like we had already endured a lot of loss, and we had already endured so much pain, and we lost so much that we couldn't possibly imagine, fathom, or, we certainly didn't want to lose anything more than we already have. I feel like that again now. I don't know about you. It's almost like we can't imagine losing anything else. And we felt like that 2 years ago. We thought, oh, how could we possibly lose anything else? So, I don't have friends. I don't have birthday parties. I don't have this. I don't have that. Well, I mean, in the last 2 years since that point, especially the past couple of weeks and months, I feel like there's been so much loss and so much grief on top of what we've already lost. And people are we're at our breaking point. I feel like there's a lot of energy out there. And I try to be like super high vibe, but also you have to acknowledge what's really happening right now. And we're at our breaking point. Many of us bargaining, begging, pleading just to be happy, just be at peace, to just hold on to the little bit of joy that we have right now. Like, please let me have this one thing. And what it's brought up for me is I have been leaning back into the Tao, and I really like the Wayne Dyer book. It's a little problematic, especially when he's talking about obesity and like blaming people for their own like eating too much and needing to slow down. So don't listen to that part. But I think most of the rest of it is pretty good. And I just like his voice. It sounds so nice and soothing. And I'm listening to this book, and it's, just listening to the verses of the Tao or reading the verses of the Tao really helped me. And one of the things I was reminded of is about seeing every new beginning in every ending, right? So one of the things he says is waking is the ending of sleep, and eating is the end of hunger. And I was thinking, okay, well, what are some other like endings and beginnings that you can see throughout your day? And, the shower is the ending of accumulating dirt. It's also the beginning of like accumulating more dirt for the next day, right? And so on. And so if we can train ourselves to see the patterns that we wish to see, I think that can help with grief. I'm not an expert in grief. I, experience it like everyone else. And I wonder if that can help us, because I do notice a lot of folks who come to me or just come into my life in general are really struggling with staring at the door that has just been closed on them, the thing that just ended, instead of looking at the opportunity of the new beginning. I think that's a lot of what the astrology of this week is about what this full moon is about, is what are our relationships, and how long are we going to stare at the closed door and feel some type of way about it before we move on to what's open, the door that is opening for us, and embrace our joy at welcoming the dawn of a new adventure. This past eclipse season that just happened, and I know I didn't post about it because I was going through it, y'all. But I did post some other videos. This past eclipse season I think was an invitation for us to shake loose our attachment to things. And for many of us, going back to all the things that we've lost and just trying to hold on to that one thing, it was trying to shake loose our attachment to that one thing that we're not willing to lose. And if we didn't shake the attachment, if we didn't acknowledge it at that point in time, this full moon will certainly refocus our attention to what we do truly value. And it'll make us sort of feel that zing, that little thing that whirs your mind and inspires change in some way. Maybe you have, you know, met someone recently, or not even met someone, but maybe you got in an argument. I'll just say it plainly. If you've been in an argument with someone, fighting with someone, and like I said, I try to say high vibe about this stuff, but Mars is Mars, and Mars is a planet of aggression. And in Gemini, it's about fighting words sometimes, or the person that irritates you and has the habit, or the noise. I saw friend of mine, Jordan, wonderful astrologer, posted the other day, someone was chewing their gum, and the noise, right? The Mars in Gemini, which is Gemini's words, its sounds, its communication, things like that. And Mars is an irritation. So like the sound of someone smacking their gum was really irritating. That kind of stuff right now is just getting under our skin. And when it gets under our skin, it's like, why is this bothering me? And maybe it's, I need to be more zen. I need to meditate. I need to walk away from this person. I need to clear up a misunderstanding. I need to think before I speak. What is it that's coming up for you right now? And I also have been hearing a lot of folks talk about how they're tired of working for other people. They're tired of working 40 hours a week. They're tired of this. And this is really the astrology of 2023. So this full moon is an invitation for us to see what's coming up and think about what we want the next 2 years to look like. Certainly the next year, because we're at a halfway point with Mars being opposed to the sun. Mars has a 2-year cycle, and when it's opposite the sun, that's the halfway point of the Mars cycle. And so we started this cycle during Scorpio season of last year. So it's been just over a year about. And we've got the rest, I'm being so inarticulate right now. I'm stumbling, but again, COVID, and sorry, and thank you. It's all about, we've got 1 year left. The next half is what we have left of this Mars cycle. So how do we want to end it? And then how do we want to begin the next cycle? And how do we want to take action differently? How do we want our lives to be different over the next couple of years based on what we've been feeling and what we've been experiencing and what we just can't hold on to anymore because it's not worth it. And it doesn't fit in our lives. And we have lost that thing that was the one thing we wanted to hold on to. And it has shaken us to make us realize what's truly important to us. So for example, I think it's begging us to transcend our current attachments and our current understandings. It's inviting us to know that we already have everything we need. And we have it at a level that's much deeper than the thing that we're desperate to hold on to. We have the love that we think we can only get from that person that we wouldn't dare let go of. We have safety within ourselves. We have clarity. Even among all the chaos that's going around, we have clarity in knowing that change is the only thing that is constant. And we have control when we feel out of control in actually surrendering. And we can be productive when we rest. Going back to 2 years ago when we had that opposition, and I was talking about, folks were disappointed that we weren't going back to normal, even though we know normal's not a thing. The invitation was to embrace the radical thing. It was about embracing the wild card and that becoming the safe, sustainable, healthy choice, right? Continuing work from home was the radical thing. It was like everyone wanted to go back, but it's kind of ironic because choosing safety was somehow radical. And so I invite you to ask yourself, what is the healthy emotion or healthy choice that you are being asked to accept the invitation for? But for some reason, it seems radical and wild and unsafe or kind of out of control, like not what you want to do, like resting instead of being productive, or loving yourself instead of seeking it in other people or things, or that surrender, right? Or making a friend or starting a new relationship or ending a relationship. What is it for you? And then on a bigger level, what is the world that you're planting for yourself and for our future generations by making this choice? Because we have this life, right? We have this life with difficult decisions and difficult choices and turning points and all of this. And sometimes I think about my future self, like when I'm 83, talking to like a 7-year-old child. And what is the story that I want to be that old lady telling, right? Like, what is the story you want to tell? Like, when I was terrified of losing this, it seemed crazy that you would do this. It ends up being the right choice. So, what is it for you that you feel like, I don't know about that? And I'm not telling you to go out and do anything crazy and wild, but think about it for a minute. Is it really crazy and wild, or is it just different and uncomfortable? And it's actually the right choice and the safe choice that will bring you joy, that will bring you happiness, that will bring you security, that will bring you peace. And what is that thing that's sort of standing in the way that you're holding on to? It's like a precious vase that's teetering, right? Or it's like that fruit that's kind of shaking loose from the tree, but you want to like catch it before it falls so you don't bruise it, or you want to catch the vase before it falls so that it doesn't smash into a billion pieces, because you're not willing to do the artwork where like you put the vase back together with all of the gold and make it more beautiful. What is the vase for you? And if that vase breaks, like, can you go to Home Goods and get like a much cuter one that's not going to break? And that's actually a better decision for you in the long run. That's what I'm saying. Like, what is this old vestige thing that you're holding on to and trying to preserve and trying to protect? Or maybe it's just, it's time is up, and going to Home Goods would be super fun to get a new vase that's not going to break, and then you don't have to worry about it breaking all the time. And who are you? Who are you without that thing? Who can you be without that thing, without that vase? Can you be the person that worries less? So who are you without that thing? And what is the new adventure? Because we are in Sagittarius season, and Sagittarius loves a good time and an adventure. What is the new adventure that you can begin, or that you're being invited to commence? And what was the ending first presented to you as, right? Because before every new beginning, there's an ending. And so before you begin this new adventure, what is the ending looking like for you, or showing up as, that you need to stop looking at or stop thinking it's going to happen? And instead remember that every time we wake up, that's the end of sleep. And every time we eat, that's the end of hunger. And every time we end whatever it is that we're holding so hard onto, that really we're being invited to begin a new adventure. So what's your new adventure? So that's for the full moon. If that wasn't enough, that's just like one day. That would be Wednesday. Oh, actually, it looks like it depends on your time zone. So it's we've got December 8th, full moon in Gemini at 16 degrees, Gemini, 1 minute. And then just an hour and 30 minutes later, pretty much, the sun is opposite Mars. Then we've got the sun opposite Mars. We talked a bit about that. It's all that transcendence. It's all that moving on. That's what the whole full moon's about. And then on Friday, December 9th, we've got Venus square Jupiter. And Venus and Jupiter are the benefics, right? Venus is super sweet and sugary and lovely and beautiful. And Jupiter's coming along and he loves to expand things and make them bigger. And so it's like big sweetness, and it can be overdoing. It can be a little bit too much of a good thing. It can be, I had too much cake. I had too much sugar. Literally, I had too much to eat, had too much to drink. And also, I think what's interesting, I looked up some folks who have this, and I'm probably saying this name wrong, but it's Anais Nin, Anais, last name Nin. She has Venus in Sagittarius square Jupiter in Pisces natally in her chart. And she's a person who has written so much about love and relationships. And so I think it's really interesting. No, I said all of that wrong. So I'm going to have to edit this episode. Anais Nin has Venus opposite Neptune. And it's all about our romantic ideals. And so after we have this sun opposite Mars on a full moon, we're going to be thinking about what is the romantic thing to do. And Anais Nin said, we don't see things as they are, we see them as we are. And so that's why it's so important to think about our values. And are we at peace? And where are we making decisions from? Because if we're wobbling and we're swirling and we're all over the place, we're going to see things as swirling and exaggerated and all over the place. But if we see things from a place of where we are at peace, then we can make peace with other things much easier. She also said, how wrong is it for a woman to expect the man to build the world she wants rather than to create it herself? So food for thought on that one. That's a little bomb I just dropped there. She also said, love never dies a natural death. It dies because we don't know how to replenish its source. It dies of blindness and errors and betrayals. It dies of illness and wounds. It dies of weariness, of witherings, of tarnishings. So where are we letting things go that we should be bringing up, or deceiving ourselves, or, just not tending to the love that we have, whether it's for ourselves so that we can be at peace and love ourselves, or in relationship with others. Another quote, life shrinks or expands in proportion to one's courage. I think that's super important with the sun opposite Mars and that full moon, and having Venus opposite Neptune at the same time. Jupiter's about to move back into Aries. It's all about big courage. And so how can you say, I'm going to make the courageous choice here? Another, this might be cliche, but y'all stick with me. So, and the day came when the risk to remain tight in a bud was more painful than the risk it took to blossom. That's what I'm saying. This is what it's all about. The day came when the risk to remain tight in a bud was more painful than the risk it took to blossom. That's this whole thing that I was saying with the vase, and it's going to fall. Are you going to let it fall and break? Are you going to stay in a tight blossom, a tight bud, or are you going to blossom? Are you going to go, get that new thing, go on that new adventure, push yourself, go out there? So that's Friday. It could also be really sweet and lovely, but I think it is about taking a risk to embrace love and joy and all of that. So if things feel uncomfortable, I think we can have a great time this weekend and feel much better. And we'll get ready for next week when we've got some more wonderful energy. I'll come back, hopefully a lot clearer. Thank you all for staying with me. And that's what we got for this full moon. So let me know in the comments. What do you think? What's coming up for you? Is it the drama? Am I the drama? Are you the drama? Are they the drama? Who's the drama? And I'll see you again next week. All right. Take good care, everyone. Stay safe out there. Lots of love. Bye.